Hey, it's time we reviewed that other thing for my opening credit sequence. Yeah, anyway, obviously this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows review. Just got out of the screening about a half an hour ago or so. Um, this movie goes by really fast. It's 2 hours and 6 minutes long, not including the trailers. And yeah, a lot happened in a very finite amount of time. Anyway, I will say this. I don't know if this is true around other places, but here in Bismarck, they actually started the trailers 3 minutes before the showtime. Originally, it was a 12:15 show, and they started the trailers at 12:12. So that actually was kind of nice. And we'll get to the trailers later. Initial thoughts so far. I liked the movie for the most part. I liked the first movie more than a lot of other people did. I get the whole stigma of Platinum Dunes and Michael Bay, but I thought the movie worked well enough on its own. I would say at this point, to this film's benefit, the Turtles act a lot more like the Ninja Turtles in this one than they did in the first one. This one, I think they're way more wisecracky. They're way more. They seem to have more personality with each one. I think really only Michelangelo had the definitive personality in the first one. Anyway, there's a cool opening. Anyway, to sort of start things off, there's kind of this cool opening sequence. They're on the Chrysler building, and they're slowly like falling down all over the place. And there's a couple times they go through the water, and at one point, Raph actually shrinks into his shell. So when they crash into the water, he uses it kind of like a jet propulsion, and Donatello uses that to sort of like water ski behind. Anyway, they go down through, and and then they buy a pizza from a delivery guy who's just sort of standing there, and they give him, and then it turns out they're going to a Knicks game, which and at the game, Vernon Fenwick is there, because basically Vernon Fenwick and the Turtles have this arrangement. Vernon got all the credit for what happened in the first movie, and the Turtles can kind of stick to the background. And they rewarded him with courtside tickets to a Knicks game. I thought that was supposed to be a reward. Anyway, like I said, there's that thing. And Raph sort of doesn't like it. You know, he wants them to sort of take credit. And then after the game, they're going through, and there's also the Halloween parade, because apparently you hold that at the same time as a basketball game in New York City. That wouldn't be a bit of a distraction for, people trying to get to the game or people trying to get to the parade. Anyway, and Michelangelo kind of longs for it because he wants to be in, again, he also kind of wants to be amongst the humans more often. It's like, the one time they could actually go out as the Halloween parade, and he sort of sneaks out into it, and he bumps into a guy dressed as a Transformer. It's a Transformer cosplay, it's Bumblebee. And he actually, can transform into the car mode and then transform into the robot mode. It was kind of a nice touch. And it's then that they hear that Shredder is being transported out of the city, and the way they find this out is because April is following Baxter Stockman, and they don't mention at all that Baxter Stockman was in the first movie. He was in the first movie. He was working with April's father and the Will Fichtner character whose name escapes me. And yeah, it was never mentioned again. That's not mentioned at all. Anyway, but it turns out Stockman's working with Shredder. She hacks his email, and they find out they're trying to break the Shredder out during this prison transport, and the security guard for the prison transport is Casey Jones, and also Bebop and Rocksteady in their human forms are in the prison transport as well. Anyway, the big thing happens. The Turtles get in the Turtle van. They're firing the manhole covers, and it's then the Shredder starts trying to escape. They fire a net to try to catch him, and then suddenly he teleports out because Baxter Stockman has a teleportation device. See how I said this movie moves really fast? And because almost immediately, Shredder is transported to the Technodrome, and Krang is there. And yeah, it's like Krang's all of a sudden in the movie. And it's like no explanation, and he knows who Shredder is, and he knows something else about this, and he knows about the turtles, and it's like, I need you to get these 3 ports to open up a portal to bring the Technodrome, and then we will rule the Earth together. He's like, okay. And also, here's this ooze. And it's like, whoa, way too fast, guys. Not only that, but almost immediately after that, Bebop and Rocksteady get turned into their animal forms. And it's like, this thing is moving lightning fast. Like, everything I described is like the first 20 to 25 minutes of the movie. Oh boy, yeah. It just felt like there's a lot they may have left out. Like, I get the primary audience for this is going to be kids, and, you know, maybe kids don't always have the greatest attention spans, but it would have been nice if they slowed down just a little bit, because, again, it's rocking through. Like I said, April witnesses the transformation of Bebop and Rocksteady. She steals a vial of the ooze, and then she bumps into Casey Jones. Like I said, this is all... Now we're probably about 35 minutes into the movie. And Casey is a security guard. He's suspended because of everything that happened. He's trying to make it to detective, and Morlini is playing this commissioner of sorts. They say chief of police. I don't think that's the right term, but she's trying to figure out the organized crime thing. He tells her because he's noticed the turtles in the turtle van, and she doesn't believe him. And he's talking about he wants to make detective, and then he starts kind of trying to do things on his own a little bit, and he throws a... And he sees April kind of getting out there, and he's after them, and he uses his hockey stick, and he uses... Yeah, that's where the hockey stick part comes in, and, you know, he becomes Casey Jones the Vigilante to an extent. Anyway, Krang is in the movie, as I said. Krang is actually voiced by Brad Garrett, and... Now, some of you out there might be saying, oh, it's the dopey brother from Everybody Loves Raymond, but Brad Garrett also has a bit of a comic connection, a really big one. He did a lot of voices in the DC animated series. He did Killer Croc in the Batman animated series. He was Bibbo in the Superman animated series. He was Lobo in the Superman animated series and the Justice League animated series. And before all that, he was Hulk Hogan on the Rock and Wrestling cartoon. And anyway, Tyler Perry, I'll get to him as Baxter Stockman. Like I said, they don't mention the fact that Baxter Stockman was in the first movie and has this connection to April's father at all. And Tyler Perry as Baxter Stockman's okay. Like I said, he was a little hammy at times, but I don't know if that was necessarily Tyler Perry or if it was the script. You know, just writing it as being very hammy. But also another thing I noticed, Tyler Perry is like towering over most of the people in this cast. Yeah, he's almost as big as Bebop and Rocksteady are after they've mutated. And yeah, like I said, anyway, because they're able to synthesize more of the ooze and they use that to mutate Bebop and Rocksteady. And Stockman's reasoning is because human beings are, you know, share traits with mammals, and we descended from mammals. Yeah, that's not how any of that works. Exactly. That's why Bebop and Rocksteady turned into a razorback and a rhinoceros. And their mutated forms are okay for them. Rocksteady's pretty good. I had some qualms with Bebop. Like, they made him really fat. Like, okay, I get it, he's supposed to be a pig, but if you ever see, you know, feral pigs out there, they're not that fat. They're not that fat. They're very lean and they're very vicious. Like I said, April steals some of the ooze, and Casey meets up. They have the interaction with the turtles. The turtles bring Casey back to the lair, and there's kind of this prank they play with him because he sees Splinter, and he's like, dude, there's this giant rat right behind you. Like, yeah, we know, we deal with him before. The best way to do is sneak up on him. And so he starts sneaking up to try to take out the rat, and Splinter flips him over and just goes, yeah, they play that prank all the time, like they've had other people down there. Anyway, let me see if there's any other notes here. Okay, yeah, the big thing is, there's actually a neutronium reference, because they're able to discern what like I said, they need to open a portal to bring the Technodrome to Earth, and the parts of the portal are made out of neutronium. And I remember that I don't remember if that was ever in the comic, but I knew it was in the animated series, the 80s animated show. They talked about neutronium. So that was kind of cool. And also, Donatello was able to discover that they could use the ooze to transform the turtles into humans. And then Donatello tells Leo about it, and Leo kind of tells him, hush, hush. But Michelangelo has overheard this, and he talks to Raph. And this is where the division really starts to happen. And I guess kind of the real slow down part of the movie. And then there's a sequence too where they need to get more of the ooze, so they stage an attack. They stage a break-in at the police department, and they get caught. And the police actually see the turtles, and they start calling them freaks and monsters and telling them to give up. But April and Casey take the quick fall for it, and the turtles escape. One thing I was not entirely sure until the very end. I was not entirely sure that April was still a news reporter at this point. They had no mention of her work. Like, Vern has left. He's not a cameraman at all. He's basically trying to cash in on the celebrity he gained from the first attack, the first movie. And I will say this, Will Arnett, I like him as Vern Fenwick. He's actually very capable in this movie, unlike in the animated series where Vernon was just, he was the really annoying guy. In this one, he's actually contributing to the movie, and he's actually functional. He's not a bumbling idiot. Anyway, I guess the big set piece, of course, eventually Shredder manages to assemble everything, and they open the portal. Shredder turns on Baxter Stockman, big shock. Stockman is whisked away, and I thought that they would set things up for a later movie at some point. Like maybe at the end there'd be an end credits sequence where Stockman actually injects himself with the ooze and transforms into the Fly. That does not happen. Anyway, and then the Technodrome starts assembling, and Krang appears. And I guess the visual thing with Krang in this one, he's not just the brain. He's actually a brain and a bit of a brain stem that connects to the robot body. And the funny thing is, the brain is actually too big for the compartment in the abdomen for the body, so he's constantly just crammed in there. He's really tight and he can't move at all. I guess it was supposed to be played for laughs. It really was not that funny. Anyway, the big setup starts to occur. And Shredder meets up with Krang and say, "Together we'll rule the world." And Krang's like, "No, I'm done with you." And shock of shocks, he turns on Shredder. And he then freezes him, and then he gets sucked into the Technodrome. And then the Turtles confront him, and the Turtles are able to, and they need to locate the beacon that the Technodrome is using to be sucked through the portal. And Donnie's hacking into the computer, searching. It's like, oh, it's just above our heads. And I think that was supposed to be played for laughs, and no one in the theater got the joke at all. Either that or they got the joke and they didn't find it funny. Anyway, eventually they managed to destroy the portal maker, which sends the Technodrome back through the portal, and the police respect them, but the turtles still kind of opt to stick to the shadows. Bebop and Rocksteady are captured. Casey Jones leads them into this basically a storage container, and they get locked in there. And it doesn't say if they're ever turned back into humans or not. I don't know if there's any of the ooze left. But at the end of the film, they're just taken in, and that's kind of it. Like I said, overall, there were a lot of high points in this movie. Like I said, I like Taylor Perry. I could live with Megan Fox. I don't care so much about Megan Fox as April O'Neil. Will Arnett was good. Stephen Amell as Casey Jones was okay. I think he was a little underwritten. Like I said, I think the Turtles as characters, I think there were more characters in this. They each had their own individual traits. Leonardo was the leader. Raph was the hothead. Donnie's the brains. Michelangelo's Michelangelo. And like I said, I think they seem to have their own distinct personalities more in this one than they did in the first one. And, like I said, my one real complaint out of everything is, again, this movie is moved way too fast. They were cramming so much into shortened space that other parts of the movie just kind of dragged a little bit. And I get that, I said this before, that the Turtles, that the audience for this film is primarily going to be kids. But I think you could have taken a little bit more time and taken a little bit more to straighten out some of the pacing in this. So overall, I'd give this one probably a C. Maybe C plus. How about that? I'll give it a C plus. Just, I mean, it's above average. I'm not going to put. It's not that bad a movie, but you know, if you had problems with the first one, I think you might like this one a little bit better. Yeah. Excuse me. Okay, we got trailers now. Like I said, the trailers actually started early for this, which was kind of nice. Our first one, Warcraft. I'm not entirely familiar with Warcraft. I haven't played any of the games, and yes, I know it was I think it was a tabletop miniature game that became a strategy game, and now it's obviously World of Warcraft, the MMO. And I don't know that much about the mythology. It just looked very kind of bland to me. After that, Legend of Tarzan, which it's Tarzan. Like I said, I like a lot of the old. I never watched any of the old like Johnny Weissmuller ones, but I always liked that story. But again, there's like a million different Tarzan ones I could watch to get the Tarzan story. So I don't know if there's really anything different to entice me to see this. And we got a jet flying over. I don't know if you can hear it, but okay. And then after that, Central Intelligence, because yeah, that's a good thing to show in front of a kids movie. A movie whose basic tagline is a penis reference. After that, it was Independence Day Resurgence. Again, I don't really care about that one. Then we got Ghostbusters. And this is probably where I catch a lot of crap for saying this, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. I do want to see Ghostbusters. I want to give it its fair shot. And yeah, that's going to be the next movie I review, Ghostbusters. And then we got Star Trek Beyond. Excuse me. And yeah, I'll probably review Star Trek Beyond as well. Yeah, those will be the next 3 movie reviews. Ghostbusters, again, I want to give it its fair shot. Star Trek Beyond, and Suicide Squad, obviously. Sometimes it's hard to forget those August movies. Anyway. After that, next video up overall, that'll be the X-Men Legacy review, and there's going to be a special supplemental episode to that that serves as a prologue, because, yeah, I always explain this, especially with X-Men storylines, you got to explain so much going into it that I had to just shunt that over into its own episode. So that first part will be covering Legion's backstory and a lot of the storylines that were leading into what set up the events for X-Men Legacy. After that, it'll be the NXT TakeOver The End. I don't know. I might not be able to get that up on Wednesday. It might not be until Thursday or even Friday. I don't want to get too far into it. Something's kind of come up. It might occupy my time to the point that I can't watch NXT TakeOver live or not. See you all then.